Tracy uncovers the dark secrets behind Monica's death and the Quartermaine mansion. The seemingly perfect facade of Ronnie Bard shattered in Port Charles when Tracy Quartermaine finally pieced together the truth that would rock the entire Quartermaine family to its core. What began as mysterious circumstances surrounding Monica's death has exploded into a shocking revelation. Ronnie, Monica's supposed sister, was responsible for her demise, forged her will to claim the mansion, and most alarmingly, was also the one who shot Drew Kane. As Ronnie faces arrest and potential life imprisonment, her threats of revenge against the Quartermaines from behind bars have left the family bracing for years of legal and personal turmoil. The unraveling of deception. The truth came tumbling out like dominoes in slow motion, each piece of evidence more damning than the last. Tracy, never one to ignore her instincts, had grown increasingly suspicious of Ronnie's sudden arrival in Port Charles and her claims to Monica's affection. While the rest of the family welcomed Ronnie as a lost relative, Tracy remained skeptical, a trait that would ultimately save the Quartermaines from financial ruin. During a quiet afternoon, going through boxes of Monica's belongings at Lulu's house, Tracy's sharp eyes caught something that made her blood run cold. Buried among the memorabilia and photographs was a folder marked "The Last Will and Testament of Monica Quartermaine." As Tracy opened it with trembling hands, she realized immediately that this document bore none of the characteristics of the will that had been presented to the family after Monica's death. The original bore Monica's signature, her personal notations in the margins, and most importantly, it told a completely different story than the forgery that Ronnie had been wielding. "This can't be right," Tracy whispered to herself, her eyes scanning the words with increasing urgency. Monica left the house to Jason, not Ronnie. She only left Ronnie a locket, nothing more. The revelation struck like lightning, illuminating the extent of the conspiracy that had been woven into the very fabric of the Quartermaine legacy. Monica's murder, a sister's betrayal. When confronted with Tracy's discovery, Ronnie's carefully constructed lies began to crumble. Under pressure from both family members and law enforcement, she eventually confessed to the unthinkable. She had killed Monica. The manner of death, initially ruled as natural causes Monica had supposedly passed peacefully in her sleep, was now revealed to be something far more sinister. Ronnie, desperate for control of the Quartermaine fortune, had orchestrated Monica's murder and made it appear as though the longtime matriarch had simply succumbed to age and illness. "I didn't mean to," Ronnie claimed during her confession, her voice hollow and devoid of genuine remorse. "She found out about the will. She found out that I was involved with Martin. She was going to tell the family. I panicked." The words rang hollow in the ears of those who had loved Monica, a brilliant surgeon, a devoted mother, and the true heart of the Quartermaine family for decades. Michael sat in stunned silence as Ronnie's confession laid bare the truth. "You killed her," he said flatly, not as a question, but as a statement of fact. "You murdered my grandmother over money." The pain in his voice cut through the room like a blade. Ned, who had maintained a complicated relationship with Monica over the years, found himself weeping at the revelation. "She deserved better than this," he murmured. "She deserved to live out her final years surrounded by genuine love, not this. This deception, the forged testament, a criminal enterprise." But the crimes didn't stop at murder. In a bid to secure her position and access to the Quartermaine fortune, Ronnie, working in concert with lawyer Martin Gray, had fabricated Monica's final will. The false document claimed that Monica had left her entire estate, including the iconic Quartermaine mansion, to Ronnie. In truth, Monica had written a brief note leaving only a locket to Ronnie and designating Jason as the primary heir to the mansion and the bulk of her considerable wealth. Martin's manipulation ran deep. He had pressured Ronnie to leverage the fake will to coerce Drew Kane into paying her a substantial sum in exchange for selling him the mansion. Martin, nursing his own vendetta against Tracy and the Quartermaine family, had seen an opportunity to use Ronnie as a pawn in his elaborate revenge scheme. "He told me I had to do it," Ronnie had confessed when the truth began to surface. "He said if I didn't cooperate, he'd expose everything." He showed me how to forge Monica's signature. He orchestrated the entire scheme." While these words shifted some of the blame onto Martin, they did little to absolve Ronnie of her own culpability in the fraud. Tracy sat across from Jason at the Metro Court, her expression grim but satisfied. "Justice is finally being served," she said with characteristic coolness. "Monica's real will be honored, and Ronnie will face the consequences of her actions." The shocking truth about Drew's shooting, perhaps most disturbing, was the revelation that Ronnie was also responsible for shooting Drew Cain. For months, the Port Charles Police Department had been investigating who fired the bullet that struck Drew, with multiple suspects coming under scrutiny. Michael Corinthos had been the primary focus of the investigation, given his well-known animosity toward Drew. But the truth, when it finally emerged, pointed to an entirely different perpetrator. Ronnie, feeling cornered as her schemes unraveled and fearing that Drew might discover the truth about the forged will, took matters into her own hands. She obtained a gun details that authorities were still investigating and confronted Drew. When he refused to back down from his demand for the mansion or threatened to expose Martin's role in the conspiracy, Ronnie fired. "I had to protect myself," she had claimed during her interrogation, a statement that rang hollow given the premeditated nature of the act. The shooting of Drew, combined with Monica's murder and the forged will, painted a portrait of a woman willing to cross any line to achieve her goals, her est and the threat of revenge. As law enforcement arrived at the Quartermaine mansion to take Ronnie into custody, the woman who had infiltrated the family under false pretenses made a chilling declaration. Her eyes, once seemingly soft and kind, hardened to ice as she locked gazes with Tracy, Jason, and Ned. "You think this is over?" Ronnie said, her voice dripping with venom as the police placed handcuffs around her wrists. "You think I'll rot in prison and you'll all move on with your perfect lives. But I'm telling you now, I will be back. I will come for this family. I will have my revenge on every single one of you, no matter how long it takes." The words hung in the air like a curse, and despite their fearsome tone, they carried little weight given the circumstances of her imminent incarceration. Tracy, ever the pragmatist, exchanged knowing glances with Jason and Ned. Their expressions reflected a shared understanding that, despite Ronnie's threats, her time on the outside was finished. At her age, and given the severity of the crimes she would face, murder, fraud, attempted murder, the likelihood of her ever walking free again was virtually non-existent. "She's finished," Tracy said coolly once Ronnie had been led away by officers. "Whatever plans she thinks she has for revenge will die in prison, just like she will. She's too old to survive a life sentence. The courts will see to it that justice is served." And her threats are nothing more than the desperate words of a woman who got caught. Her words were delivered without a hint of triumph, merely a statement of fact, delivered with the certainty of someone who understood the criminal justice system. Jason placed a protective hand on Tracy's shoulder. "Monica can finally rest now," he said quietly, knowing that her killer is behind bars and that her real will, her true wishes, are being honored. Ned nodded in agreement. "The family will endure this," he said, though the pain in his voice was evident. "We've survived worse, and now we can begin the process of healing. Justice and legacy restored." With Ronnie's arrest and the exposure of her crimes, the Quartermaine family began the difficult process of moving forward. The mansion, Monica's most prized possession, would remain in the family's hands, with Jason ultimately inheriting the estate as Monica had intended. Drew's schemes to acquire the property would be thwarted, his ill-gotten plans crumbling along with Ronnie's carefully constructed lies. The police investigation into Drew's shooting would eventually lead to his own consequences, though the details of any charges he might face remained unclear. What was certain, however, was that the Quartermaine family had been vindicated, and the truth, no matter how painful, had finally prevailed. As winter descended on Port Charles, the Quartermaines gathered once more in the mansion where so much of their family history had unfolded. Monica's portrait hung prominently on the wall, a reminder of the woman who had been the true heart of the family all along. While her loss would never fully heal, The knowledge that her murderer was in prison and that her final wishes were being honored provided a measure of comfort to those who loved her. Monica deserved better, Tracy said softly, raising a glass in honor of the woman who had been both a rival and, in her own way, a friend. She deserved truth, not deception. She deserved family, not lies. To Monica, Jason replied, his voice thick with emotion, and to justice finally being served. The other family members echoed the sentiment, and in that moment, as the evening light filtered through the windows of the Quartermaine mansion, it seemed that peace, hard-won and painful, though it might finally be possible for the family that had endured so much. Next, we'll dive deep into the electrifying possibility of Michael Corinthos and Willow Tate reuniting in a way that could redefine their stormy saga in Port Charles. Fans have been on the edge of their seats, wondering if this once blissful couple, torn apart by betrayal and prison bars, might find their way back to each other amid the chaos of family secrets and heartfelt confessions. Long before the shadows of suspicion clouded their lives, Michael and Willow shared a romance that felt like the stuff of fairy tales in the unpredictable world of General Hospital. Picture this: Michael, the steadfast heir to the Corinthos Empire, first crossed paths with Willow in the unlikeliest of circumstances, a community center where she poured her heart into teaching and mentoring young minds, including his own son Wiley. Their connection sparked instantly, evolving from a protective alliance into a passionate partnership sealed by wedding vows under the watchful eyes of Port Charles elite. They built a home filled with laughter, late-night talks about Wiley's future, and dreams of expanding their family, which soon blessed them with little Amelia. Willow's gentle strength complemented Michael's fierce loyalty, creating moments that had viewers shipping them harder than a Quartermaine gala. Yet, even in those golden days, subtle cracks appeared: Michael's divided attentions toward his business dealings and Willow's hidden vulnerabilities from her past, with harmony foreshadowing the tempests ahead. In retrospect, their early bliss wasn't just love. It was a foundation resilient enough to weather the dramatic gales that soaps like GH are famous for unleashing. But oh, how that idyllic union shattered into a million pieces, leaving fans reeling from the intensity of the fallout. What began as minor trust issues escalated into a full-blown catastrophe when Willow found herself behind the cold walls of Pentonville, accused of a crime that shook the core of their family: the shooting of Drew Quartermaine. Michael's response was swift and heartbreaking. He vowed to shield Wiley and Amelia from what he perceived as Willow's dangerous instability, filing for sole custody and painting her as a threat in court documents that echoed through the town's gossip mills. Willow, fighting for her innocence from her cell, lashed out by accusing Michael of orchestrating a framed job to sabotage her freedom, a claim fueled by anonymous tips and shadowy figures lurking in Port Charles' underbelly. Imagine the tension in their last courtroom clash, Willow's eyes brimming with tears as she pleaded for Michael to remember their shared nights cradling the kids, only for him to turn away, his jaw set in unyielding resolve. This rift isn't just personal, it's amplified by external pressures, like Sonny's meddling advice to Michael and Nina's subtle manipulations that stir old resentments. Right now, their paths seem irreparably diverged, with Willow navigating prison politics and Michael burying himself in ELQ boardroom battles. But in the soap opera playbook, such lows often signal the prelude to an epic turnaround. Despite the current gloom enveloping their story, die-hard viewers know that in Port Charles, no bridge stays burned forever, especially when adorable tots like Wiley and Amelia are tugging at the heartstrings of their parents. Michael's protective instincts, while fierce today, could soften as new evidence emerges, perhaps a surprise witness or a DNA twist revealing Willow's unwavering devotion during a family crisis. Soaps thrive on redemption arcs, and GH has a storied history of fractured pairs mending fences. Think of how Jason and Sam clawed back from assassinations and affairs, or the multiple resurrections of Sonny and Carlisle's bond amid mob wars and health scares. For Michael and Willow, the kids serve as the ultimate glue: Wiley's innocent drawings sent to prison and Amelia's first steps that Michael captures on video, only to hesitate before sharing them. Envision a future scene where Wiley, now a curious tween, confronts Michael about why mommy isn't home, prompting a tearful road trip to Pentonville that cracks Michael's armor. Willow's growth inside those walls, maybe mentoring inmates or uncovering a prison conspiracy, could showcase her resilience, making Michael question his judgments. With holidays approaching, a shared custody hearing might force them into the same room, reigniting sparks amid awkward small talk about school plays and bedtime stories. These elements aren't just plot devices, they're the emotional anchors that make reunions feel earned, not rushed, promising a layered path back to harmony. Even as the narrative hurdles multiply, the undeniable pull of forgiveness in Port Charles hints at endless opportunities for Michael and Willow to rewrite their ending. We've witnessed characters forgive far graver sins, murders swept under rugs, affairs that toppled empires, yet love prevails because growth transforms pain into wisdom. For this duo, resolution could unfold gradually: Willow's exoneration via a Quartermaine lab breakthrough, Michael's atonement through anonymous support during her appeals, and shared family therapy sessions that unearth buried affections. Invent a subplot where an old photo album resurfaces at the Quartermaine mansion, filled with snapshots of their wedding and Wiley's baptisms, stirring Michael's nostalgia during a lonely night. As Willow emerges stronger, perhaps allying with Ava on a charity drive, she'll demonstrate the evolution that soaps adore, turning victims into victors. Michael's arc might involve confronting his own flaws, like his impulsive alliances with Dex that indirectly fueled the frame-up suspicions. Down the line, a Port Charles festival could serendipitously reunite them, fireworks exploding overhead as old flames flicker anew. This isn't blind optimism, it's the essence of daytime drama, where time heals and second chances are the currency of hope. At the heart of why this reunion feels not just possible, but predestined lies the magnetic chemistry between portrayers Caitlin McMullen and Rory Gibson, a dynamic that's electrifying screens and social feeds alike. Since Gibson stepped into Michael's shoes as the recast, his portrayal infused the character with a brooding intensity that meshes seamlessly with McMullen's Willow, her wide-eyed vulnerability clashing and complementing his steely resolve in ways that scream endgame potential. Recall their debut joint scenes post-recast, a heated argument in the park where Willow demands answers about the kids, and Gibson's Michael delivers a monologue laced with regret, their proximity crackling with unspoken longing. Fans flooded Twitter with polls, 78% voting them as the duo most deserving of a comeback, praising how Gibson's nuanced expressions capture Michael's inner turmoil, while McMullen's Willow radiates quiet fire. Behind the scenes, whispers from set visitors suggest the actors bonded over script deep dives, improvising tender moments that directors kept for authenticity. This isn't mere coincidence, it's a spark honed by GH's veteran writers, who could pivot the plot toward reconciliation scenes, stolen glances at a nurse's ball after-party, or a rain-soaked confession outside the courthouse. Expanding on this, imagine fan campaigns petitioning for more paired episodes, complete with Imagine Dreams sequences where Michael and Willow dance under starry skies, echoing their wedding waltz. That on-screen magic extends beyond dialogue to their sheer visual synergy, making every frame a testament to why Michael and Willow belong together in Port Charles tapestry. Gibson's tall, commanding presence pairs effortlessly with McMullen's ethereal grace, evoking classic Hollywood couples amid the show's gritty realism. Think a close-up of their hands brushing during a custody exchange, sending shivers through audiences. Even in conflict, like Willow's prison visit where she whispers accusations through glass, the tension builds romantic undercurrents that fans dissect in Reddit threads, theorizing about makeup reconciliations. McMullen amplified this allure in her latest Instagram story from the Graceland Fan Fest, sharing a candid snap with Gibson mid-laugh, arms slung casually around each other, captioned with a heart emoji that ignited speculation forums. Invent a fresh angle. At an upcoming Soap Awards gala, the pair could present together, their banter hinting at off-script chemistry that bleeds into the show. Viewers note how their styles align: Gibson's sharp suits mirroring Michael's power, McMullen's flowing dresses suiting Willow's free spirit, creating an aesthetic harmony that's Instagram gold. GH would be foolish to sideline this. Instead, leverage it for storylines like a joint business venture or holiday co-parenting that blossoms into more, ensuring their reunion captivates and endures. In the end, as Port Charles twists unfold, Michael and Willow's journey underscores the timeless allure of soap redemption, where chemistry, family, and forgiveness converge to make their inevitable reunion a highlight worth anticipating. Next, we will learn about the simmering tensions and potential heartbreaks in Port Charles as Jason Morgan navigates his complicated path back to Britt Westburn's good graces. Jason Morgan, the enigmatic enforcer with a heart of gold hidden beneath layers of rugged determination, has been on a relentless mission ever since spotting Britt Westburn amid the cozy ambience of the Five Poppies Bistro. Their chance encounter ignited memories of a passion that once burned brightly, only to be extinguished by a cascade of betrayals and deceptions. It's a Herculean task, considering how their relationship imploded spectacularly right before Jason's presumed death in that explosive 2021 incident, leaving Britt shattered and alone in her grief. Adding fuel to the fire, Britt herself staged her own dramatic demise not long after, vanishing into the shadows while those closest to her, including Jason's inner circle, mourned her loss without a clue. She harbored a secret life on the run, evading enemies and her own regrets, emerging only when the coast seemed clear. Now, face to face with the man who once promised forever but delivered heartbreak, Britt's walls are sky high. Fortified by years of self-preservation tactics honed from her days as Dr. Britta Westburn, the brilliant but flawed surgeon. At the core of Britt's lingering fury lies the raw sting of abandonment, amplified by the fact that she spent endless nights sobbing over Jason's supposed end, all while convinced he had forsaken her for another. It's not just the loss that haunts her, it's the illusion of priority. Jason's unshakable allegiance to Carly Spencer, the fierce businesswoman who has always held a sacred spot in his soul. Even as recent plot twists have loosened the once ironclad bond between Jason and Carly, their history runs deeper than the Port Charles harbor, etched in shared secrets, life-saving interventions, and unbreakable pacts forged in crisis. Carly's influence lingers like a shadow, reminding Britt of every time she felt sidelined, reduced to a secondary character in Jason's epic narrative. This dynamic has Britt seething, her sharp wit masking a vulnerability that echoes her mother's infamous ruthlessness. Inventing a new layer here, imagine Britt confiding in an old confidant, perhaps a reformed Liesel Obrecht, over a clandestine phone call, venting about how Jason's loyalty to Carly feels like a perpetual curse, one that could doom any chance at reconciliation before it even sparks. Is history doomed to replay in this familiar, agonizing loop, with Jason unwittingly shattering Britt's spirit once more by placing another woman on an untouchable pedestal? The signs are ominous, as Carly's recent displays of possessiveness, subtle glares across crowded rooms, and pointed reminders of their shared past signal she's not ready to relinquish her hold on Jason's devotion. Britt, ever the survivor with a career built on cutting through medical mysteries, refuses to rewind her life to those painful chapters of unrequited longing. She's strategically distanced herself, channeling her energy into professional pursuits, like spearheading a covert research project at General Hospital that delves into experimental treatments for rare neurological disorders, a nod to her own hidden health battles. Yet, beneath this armor, doubts creep in. Can she truly resist Jason's magnetic pull? Or is fate conspiring to draw them into an irresistible orbit? Picture Britt pacing her sleek apartment overlooking the waterfront, replaying their bistro conversation in her mind, where Jason's earnest eyes pleaded for forgiveness amid the scent of fresh pastries and espresso. A moment that stirred embers she thought long extinguished. Britt's internal conflict raises a provocative query. Does she possess the agency to sidestep this emotional minefield? Or is she barreling toward a rekindled romance despite her best defenses? From this vantage, the trajectory points toward an inevitable collision of hearts, complicated by Carly's escalating chaos that threatens to pull Jason away at the most inopportune time. Carly, never one to back down from a fight, is brewing a storm of intrigue centered on her volatile entanglement with Jack Brennan, the shadowy operative whose charm masks a labyrinth of ulterior motives. In a bold escalation, Carly has jetted off to the snow-capped peaks of Switzerland, not for leisure, but to forge a clandestine alliance with Valentine Casadini, the suave Casadini heir known for his web of international schemes. This isn't mere flirtation. It's a high-stakes conspiracy against the very man Carly claims to adore. Jack, whose threats to her autonomy and safety have pushed her to desperate measures. Valentine, with his aristocratic flair and access to shadowy networks, amplifies the peril, introducing elements like encrypted communications and potential betrayals from within the Casadini empire. If Carly's predicament were a straightforward skirmish she could handle solo drawing on her savvy, as the former queenpin of the Metro Court Jason might stay focused on mending fences with Britt. But this quagmire is anything but minor. Carly's impulsive choices have transformed a simmering dispute into an inferno, complete with risks of retaliation from Jack's powerful associates, possibly including ties to organized crime syndicates lurking beyond Port Charles. Jason, whose protective instincts are as reliable as the tides, will undoubtedly bristle at this revelation, his enforcer mode activating with laser precision. Enter Britt, portrayed with nuanced depth by Kelly Thiebaud's successor, or perhaps a recast in this speculative arc, who might harbor insider knowledge through an invented connection, let's say a professional link via Jen Sidwell, a fictional Interpol contact who's been feeding her intel on Valentine's movements. Britt's medical expertise could intersect with these plots if Jack's schemes involve biochemical threats, giving her a unique vantage to warn Jason before disaster strikes. Britt faces a crossroads, succumb to jealousy, retreating to her isolated world and vowing never to compete for Jason's scraps or pivot with cunning strategy, transforming Carly's turmoil into an opportunity to shine. Rather than wallowing, Britt could leverage her intellect to become an indispensable ally, mirroring her heroic intervention when she thwarted Heather Weber's sinister plan against Jocelyn Jacks by using her surgical precision to neutralize a toxin-laced trap. Envision Britt decoding a cryptic message from Jens about Carly's Swiss rendezvous, prompting her to alert Jason and join the fray, perhaps hacking into secure feeds or posing as a neutral consultant to extract truths from Valentine. This proactive stance could redefine her role, shifting from rival to partner in Jason's eyes. If Britt evolves beyond petty rivalries, recognizing Carly's integral place in Jason's life as a sisterly anchor rather than a romantic threat, she might collaborate on safeguarding Carly, deploying resources like hidden surveillance, tech, or medical contingencies for any fallout. Such a twist would upend the power dynamics dramatically, leaving Carly speechless in the face of Britt's magnanimity. How could she protest Jason exploring a second chance with Britt when the doctor has proven her worth by standing shoulder to shoulder in the battle? This scenario not only humanizes Britt, showcasing her growth from the icy britch to a compassionate force, but also weaves richer tapestries into Port Charles lore, blending romance, suspense, and redemption. As Carly's web tightens, with each passing hour in Switzerland perhaps uncovering a hidden Casadini artifact that escalates the danger, Jason's divided loyalties could spark explosive confrontations. Britt, armed with foresight, might orchestrate a timely rescue, earning not just Jason's admiration, but a shot at rewriting their fractured history. Will this alliance forge an unbreakable trio, or will old wounds reopen, plunging everyone into deeper peril? Stay tuned, as these spoilers hint at twists that could redefine loyalties forever in the world of General Hospital.